Okay, let's jump right in. We are doing a deep dive on BrasilAgro today.
Right.
And they are a fascinating company operating right at this, intersection of serious real estate strategy and massive high-tech farming.
It's a unique model.
It is. You really need to get their core idea. They buy up raw or underused land. They pour money into developing it. I'm talking irrigation, soil prep, the works. They farm it for a while, and then, this is the key part, they sell it for a profit.
That dual business model is exactly why we're looking at their 2024-2025 crop year. Because this year, it wasn't just a challenge. It was a macroeconomic firestorm.
A firestorm.
Yeah. We were talking about extreme volatility.
Yeah.
Commodity prices were just swinging wildly. Exchange rates made any kind of forecasting a total nightmare. Interest rates were climbing.
And all of this against a backdrop of global instability, right? Squeezing supply chains.
Exactly. A total pressure cooker.
And yet, if you just glance at the top line, they finished the year with net revenue at $1.2 billion. That's a 5% increase. So on the surface, that looks like growth, doesn't it?
It does. But the devil is always in the margins, and that's where this macro environment really bit down hard.
How hard?
Well, that 5% revenue increase, it sort of masks the struggle. The total adjusted EBITDA actually saw a slight dip, down 4%, landing at $267.3 million.
Okay.
But look at the net income. That's the anchor number here. It tells the real story.
Yeah.
It dropped a punishing 39%, all the way down to $138 million.
Whoa, okay, wait a second. A 40% drop. So how meaningful is a 5% revenue bump if their net income just completely cratered? Did they just chase volume and sacrifice all their profit?
Well, that drop tells you everything. It screams that volatility was just eating their bottom line alive, and their input costs were through the roof.
Right.
So our mission for this deep dive is to figure out, how did this company, which is built on having this real estate safety net, how did it navigate these intense margin-crushing challenges? And what were the strategic moves that kept the whole engine running?
Because something clearly worked to keep that revenue up and, prevent a total catastrophe.
Right.
Okay, so let's start with the immediate threats, the defensive playbook. What were the, say, 3 biggest hurdles they had to clear just to get through the season?
The first one, and the most unpredictable, was climate. And it was a terrible double whammy this year. They were fighting severe and completely opposite weather events at the same time.
So not just one bad storm, but like a geographical conflict of weather.
Exactly that. They reported significant drought in the Northeast, specifically in places like Bahia and also over in Paraguay.
Okay.
And that just hammered their grain yields. But at the very same time, the Central West, Mato Grosso, was dealing with way too much rain.
Wow. So floods and drought in the same quarter?
Yeah. This combination directly hit their grain and cotton production across multiple farms. It just goes to show you, even with a lot of geographic diversification, you can't totally escape that kind of climate risk.
That's rough. Okay, what was the second major challenge? Something maybe a little more in their control but still costing them?
It connects right back to their core business of developing land. Soil maturation. They had strategically expanded into new areas in Mato Grosso, but the land, it had very low clay content. And this kind of soil, it needs a ton of intensive, very specific work to become highly productive.
So for those of us who aren't farmers, low clay content, that sounds like a huge operational headache. Is it like trying to build a productive foundation on sand? How much extra work are we talking about?
That's a great analogy. It required a lot of additional unplanned effort and resources. A heavy investment in specific inputs, in labor, just to get that land up to the level they needed.
A cost overrun, basically.
They frame it, I think, correctly as more than that. It's not just an overrun. It's a critical long-term investment. It's what's necessary to expand their entire productive base. It's the cost of turning marginal land into a premium asset they can eventually sell.
Right, so it's not an expense, it's a capital investment. Got it. And the final hurdle was purely external geopolitics.
Yep. International conflicts were causing major ruptures in agricultural supply chains. Input costs went way up, and just getting product out the door became harder.
So what did they do?
What's fascinating is their response. It shows a lot of market agility. They leveraged diplomacy, they looked for new markets, and the prime example is that they successfully started exporting beans to India again.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and that opened up a whole new valuable window for specialized crops. It proves they weren't just sitting on their hand when the old trade routes got disrupted.
Okay, so we've covered the storm they weathered. Let's pivot now. Let's talk about the proactive steps, the strategic moves that actually created value. What were the, say, 3 biggest offensive actions they took?
The first, and I would argue the most impactful for their future, was doubling down on technology. They invested $12 million in huge digital transformation projects.
Okay.
And this led to the creation of something they call the Center for Agricultural Operations, or the COA.
COA.
Yeah.
Sounds a bit corporate. What's the real on-the-ground insight here? How does 12 million actually translate into saved money?
So think of it like this: telemetry. It basically turns every single piece of important farm equipment, your tractors, your harvesters, your sprayers, into a specialized Fitbit.
Huh.
They now have over 90% of their strategic fleet connected. And this feeds back real-time data on, well, everything: machine health, fuel use, and critically pulverization performance, how well the sprayers are working.
And the result is what? Just being more efficient.
It's huge efficiency gains,
Yeah.
a massive reduction in wasting expensive inputs, and lower diesel use. It's moving beyond just optimization. It's becoming a survival mechanism when your margins are razor thin.
That real-time data lets them micromanage waste across thousands of hectares. It's like moving farming from seasonal planning to, I don't know, a connected factory floor.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay. So the second strategic event has to be the validation of their whole model, the real estate play.
It validates the entire thing. They executed a major land sale this year, the Fazenda Preferencia, for $141.4 million.
And that sale, it isn't just revenue, right? It's that operational safety net we were talking about at the start.
Precisely. The real estate arm is fundamentally a hedge against the volatility of the farming operation, against climate risk, against commodity risk.
So when you look back over the years...
Exactly. When you look back, their total land sales over just the last 5 years have been $1.9 billion. That continuous cycle of developing land and then selling it provides the structural financial buffer that shields them when that net income drops by nearly 40%.
The genius is the consistency. Cash flow from real estate stabilizing the chaos of farming. So what was the third critical investment? It feels like they had to be actively fighting that climate risk with infrastructure.
They were. And this was a major irrigation project at Fazenda Arojadinho in Bahia. In this crop year alone, they added another 1,890 hectares of irrigated land.
What's the end game for that farm?
They're aiming for 4,100 total irrigated hectares there. And the strategic implication of that is so critical. Irrigation gives you productive stability. It strengthens your resilience against future droughts like the ones they just faced.
And I imagine it lets them grow different things.
Yes, it lets them shift production towards higher value crops, stuff for export, which significantly boosts their profit per hectare. They're literally building stability into the ground.
That's a powerful move. But it does raise some questions we should get to later. Let's switch gears to ESG. I mean, sustainability reporting is really moving from optional marketing to mandatory risk disclosure.
It is.
So let's break it down: environmental, social, and governance. And let's be clear about what they've done versus what they're promising to do.
Okay, started with the E for environmental. Their actions here show some really impressive impact driven by tech. They significantly expanded their use of optical selective spraying.
Okay, what is that?
It's a system that uses AI and optics to spot weeds by their color, which means they only spray chemicals exactly where they're needed. No more blanket spraying entire fields.
So how much did that actually save them?
In the areas where they used it, they saw savings of over 50% in chemical product use. On top of that, they upped their investment in biological products by 26%, spending $11.7 million.
And what about future commitments on the E front?
Their big commitment is that they've finished a full diagnosis to prepare for adopting the IFRS S1 and S2 standards.
Okay, hold on. IFRS S1 and S2. That's a highly technical point. For our listener, why should they care about that specific acronym?
Because it signals they're getting very serious. These are the intense, new global climate and sustainability disclosure rules. Preparing for compliance now is a huge, challenging goal for the next cycle, and it shows they're trying to get ahead of future regulation.
Got it. Okay, let's move to S for social. Human capital, which is always tricky in agribusiness. Tell me about this huge drop in employee turnover.
This is one of the most remarkable operational wins of the year, I think. They dropped employee turnover from 44% all the way down to 26%.
That is a massive shift. Think of the savings in recruitment and training.
It's huge. They also got a 2-star mental health seal in their first year of evaluation and modernized HR assessments with an AI-assisted tool called 9box.
9box tool. More jargon. What does the AI do for HR?
It cuts the assessment time for managers from 5 months down to just 2. And that time savings, it's a massive productivity boost for the leadership team. Lets them focus on developing people, not just paperwork.
But it's not all perfect, right? What are the remaining challenges?
The report is pretty open about it. They still have persistent challenges in the Mato Grosso region. It's just a very competitive market for talent, and there's a scarcity of qualified professionals there.
So what's the plan?
The future focus is on better preparing their unit leaders to welcome and retain a more diverse workforce. But you can't solve a labor shortage overnight.
True. Finally, G for governance. Integrity and transparency. What did they do to strengthen oversight?
A big focus on compliance infrastructure. They evaluated all 11,191 of their operations for corruption risk, and they mandated that 100% of internal employees took anti-corruption training.
Okay.
And critically, they updated their internal audit structure. The audit team now reports functionally to the audit committee.
That functional reporting line, that's key, isn't it? It removes layers of management that could interfere.
Exactly. It significantly strengthens independence and oversight. That's a huge win for integrity.
And transparency.
In terms of transparency, they were very open about a complex legal dispute in Bolivia. It's about a land overlap with the Guarias Forest Reserve. It's an ongoing risk. And the fact that they're disclosing it shows a willingness to be upfront about these tough legal battles.
Okay, so looking ahead to the next year, let's talk priorities. After all this turbulence and all this investment, which of their stated goals seem the most ambitious or maybe the most crucial for growth?
I think the most immediate and absolutely crucial one is getting the full return on that digital investment. They want to achieve full connectivity across all of their farms in the next 12 months.
Ah, that makes perfect sense. They spent the 12 million, now they have to maximize it.
Right, the system's value just compounds the more data points you can feed into it. Getting that last 10% of the fleet and all the farms online is everything.
And the big ESG goal.
The second major objective is that regulatory compliance we talked about, the full implementation of the IFRS S1 and S2 standards. They're dedicating serious resources to building the controls and processes for that.
Which is not a small task.
Not at all. It signals a very ambitious, serious intent in high-level climate reporting. It could become a real competitive advantage.
And operationally, how do they plan to keep their scale, given they're always selling off developed land like Fazenda Preferencia?
That's the critical third priority,
Yeah.
maintaining their total productive area.
Yeah.
Despite selling a huge asset, they plan to keep the total planted area flat for the next crop year by constantly feeding the system. They're bringing newly transformed pasture areas into production. They converted 2.5 thousand hectares this year alone, and they have a new lease coming online. It's that continuous cycle of transformation replacing the sold assets.
So let's zoom out. Let's leave our listener with the 3 most important insights they should take away from this pressure cooker year for BrasilAgro.
Okay, first you have to lock in the idea of the resilient dual model. That core strategy of creating value from real estate, the $1.9 billion in land sales over 5 years, it's not just extra revenue. It is the essential financial buffer that gives them stability when farming margins get squeezed.
Right. Second, this idea that technology is now a survival mechanism. Tech like the COA and the optical spraying, it's not a luxury for optimization anymore. It's a critical tool for mitigating risk. It directly fights back against high input costs and climate uncertainty with radical precision.
And finally, number 3 is ESG maturity. Under pressure. This company is tackling complex material sustainability goals, like preparing for IFRS S2 and dramatically improving employee retention at the same time as everything else. It shows that sustainability is becoming truly integrated into their core strategy, not just something for the marketing department.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, the listener, to consider. The expansion of irrigated land is absolutely key to their stability, but it dramatically increases water consumption in regions that are already prone to drought. So how should we weigh the short-term stability that irrigation brings against the long-term risk of water stress?
A really important question.
And secondly, given this huge competitive investment in precision agriculture and full connectivity, how quickly is the digital divide going to widen between companies like BrasilAgro and smaller traditional farms? And how will that fundamentally alter who survives and thrives in the future of global agribusiness? Something to chew on.